So you have decided to come to the second video about Poldark, the spoilery version, which will discuss plot events from season 1, meaning books 1 and 2. And then I will also be discussing books 3 and 4, which, you know, I've read all of them in the span of 20 days, basically. My life has been Poldark since February 21st. Differences between the book and the show really quickly. There aren't that many, honestly. Timing is sped up a little bit, and Demelza is only 13 in the books, which obviously they changed that for the show because we do not, most of us, hopefully, do not think it is okay for 27-year-old men to be hanging out with 13-year-old girls. I mean, in the book, when they get together, because they get married and it's the most beautiful thing in the world. She is 17 and he is 27, which is more acceptable, but still a little like, eh. So they're equivalent-ish in age, far more equivalent than they are in the book. A young presence is exactly what Ross needs to pull himself out of the Elizabeth is married to Francis depression, which is understandable, but dude, you got the better end of that deal, faux show. Oh, in the books, Jim, oh poor Jim, he gets to be with Jenny a much longer time before he goes to jail and, you know, dies because of his lungs. He gets to be married to her for a long enough time for them to have 3 children, and he gets to meet all of them and raise them for a little while, and then she gets pregnant with the 4th one when he finally gets arrested and jailed. Mark is also a much, like, I don't think they cast Mark very well. I mean, the actor who plays Mark is fine, but in the book he's just described as far more of an like Adam Bede type. He does not match the description in the book, the guy that they cast. He's just supposed to be very tall and kind of lanky and just like superhumanly strong. And the guy that they picked just kind of looks like a dude. I just think they could have chosen somebody a little more impressive looking physically. But anyway, Elizabeth is blonde in the books, which I am glad that they didn't go with a blonde actress. I think she's fantastic. I think she really gets Elizabeth right on. I think all of the actors get the characters perfectly. Another thing that's kind of different from the books, George Warlegan. In the books, he too is way more physically imposing. Like he is a blacksmith's son, and he looks it in the books. Like he looks like he could mess you up. And in the show, George does not look like a guy who could keep up with Ross. Everybody knows the scene with the scything, and even though he did the scything wrong, which I think is hilarious, George and Ross are gonna have physical altercations in season 2, and I'm just not gonna believe it if George is able to hold his side of the fight. Obviously, George gets some help in the books. He, you know, has servants who help, and Ross throws one of them out a window. And in the bar, Ross throws George over the balcony, which was hysterical, and that I can see happening because George is just kind of a small looking dude. Even if George is super built under all those cravats and stuff, I just don't think I'm gonna believe it. Like, I just don't see it. I was drawn into this romance so heavily. Like, this is my all-time favorite OTP. Like, I don't think I love any 2 characters together more than these ever. Maybe Rhett and Scarlett are tied, but like, oh, when they, like, I had no idea that they would get together, and they got together so quickly. Of course, it takes longer in the book. It takes like 4 years, but whatever. In the span of 3 hours, my favorite characters were married. Like, they went from not knowing each other to being married, and it was fantastic. I was so drawn into that plot point-wise. When things started to go sour for them, because Ross, huge douche canoe, was being drawn back to Elizabeth again, because he and Demelza are having some issues because Julia dies, and Ross is really sad about that, and, you know, he almost goes to jail, and there were just so many things, you know, so much drama, Graham, so much. They're having some trouble, and Ross, he looks at Elizabeth and is like, what would things be like if I could just be with Elizabeth instead? And then Francis dies and makes it a possibility, and that's when, you know, things really fall apart because Ross hears that Elizabeth has finally gotten engaged to George, which I like them together as a couple. I think they really work. Ross reads the letter at night and goes over and does what he does with Elizabeth, and my heart shattered. Because I, like Demelza, believed that Ross was a completely moral guy. Like, he had never done anything that did not live with his moral code before, and I was not expecting it. I mean, even when he went over there, I was like, okay, he's just gonna yell at her, maybe he'll kiss her, but that's it. Like, he's never going to actually sleep with her, because then he would be hurting Demelza, and he would never do that. And then he did it anyway. And I was completely caught off guard. I closed the book. I was reading alone at like 2 a.m. and I just kind of sat on my bed for 20 minutes, not able to process this information. I am really happy with what Graham did with the characters after this, because I almost didn't keep going. Like, I was almost too distraught to keep going. I was like, I can't handle any more of this. My heart can't take it. I'm too upset. And I listened to Adele's Can't Let Go like 40 times the next day. I'm really, really happy with the way that Graham handled that, because instead of making Demelza just kind of take it, she gets mad, she gets pissed, she wants to get back at Ross, and she almost does in the strongest way possible. I mean, she decides, you know, he went and hurt me in this way, I'm gonna go hurt him in the exact same way. Even if he doesn't care, I need to strike back. And so she goes and almost sleeps with this captain that she's been kind of flirting with for a while, and because Ross has been sort of ignoring her. And, you know, the whole time I was like, this is completely justified. I'm with you 5,000%, Demelza. You do what you need to do, girl. And then at the last minute, she's like, I can't do this. It's not about Ross, it's about me. This is not who I am. She calls it off, and fine. Like, I was worried that she was gonna get raped for a while because the captain was still, like, coming after her. And then the captain thinks, but, you know, Graham describes it and says, like, but he was not that kind of man. And I was like, thank you. I liked you, Captain. Don't do that. Whew. This last book was just a whirlwind, and I did finish, you know, I went from page 314 to page 471 in one night, because I had to know. I had to know if there was reconciliation between these two characters. I had to know what was going to happen. I had to know. I don't think I said quite enough how brilliant the writing is, how beautiful some of it is. He has passages, especially in the beginnings books, just passages and passages, and I have never written in books as much as I've written in these, because I like to keep my books pristine and beautiful, but these books have been such a enveloping experience that I'm really glad to have that marginalia now, because it records exactly my feelings at the time of reading them, and even if I do go back and read them again, I will obviously know what happens next, so the urgency won't be there. The fear of these two not being together will not be there. I'm happy to have that captured. Well, thank you very much if you watched all of this, or any of it. I hope I have inspired you to watch some Poldark or read some Poldark, because you will not be disappointed with either. If you enjoy the BBC at all, you will probably fall in love with these characters just the way that I did. And it's not just Ross and Demelza whom I love. I love all of the characters. Like, even the evil ones, I love them dearly. Dwight, I didn't even talk about Dwight. I love Dwight. The only character I don't really like is Karen, and Mark, because, they're just kind of... I like Karen more than I like Mark, honestly. Mark should have known better, but he was too driven by the D. Mark was too much under the influence of beauty, and he should have been able to see, like Ross eventually did, that ain't that hot. Cannot wait for season 2, which comes on BBC One in September. I really hope that they shoot another series afterwards, because I just think the production values are fantastic. The soundtrack is fantastic. I listened only to it for about a week straight, and then I discovered Hamilton. So until next time, books to Huda! Oh, I didn't didn't say this, I forgot, but is it not the funniest thing ever? They put a little sticker with Poldark's face on it. Now a BBC miniseries. His little face, like, it's just, and it's the same picture. It's so funny. I can't get over it. And it's not just on one of them. No, it's here and here. It's on all of them. Yeah, let's just... Okay. I also love the little behind the scenes thing that BBC put out where they danced and then they put on this other music and Aiden just like goes with it. He's like, you know, and he stays a character. It's so funny. So, and then I have tons and tons of writing, you know, on the next pages because I was just so like, can't even deal. One of my favorite lines in that book, because I have them all tabbed, of course, who wouldn't? So that's been almost 30 minutes, no, almost 40 minutes of me talking about Poldark.